Hey, I'm Emmy and I'm a projector. I'm going to talk about the burnout because your gal has been burnt out. And I thought that I had got on top of this with my experiment, but I hadn't. And I was also experiencing bitterness as well. So if you're new to human design and you've found out you're a projector, our signatures are success and the opposite side is bitterness. So this is a really good way to notice how you're feeling and where you're at in life. It can be really informative in how you move through the world. And your authority is helpful for how you make decisions. So I've only got the root and the spleen defined in my chart. I'm a splenic authority. I only have one channel, the 28 to 38. The channel will struggle. And I'm single definition and a pure individual. So I really struggled when I was younger. I was in a house with two generator types and a very, very bitter projector. And that was rough because it was always like, what are you doing? Why are you not coming down to sit in the living room? Why are you always in bed? Why are you always sleeping? Because I really needed a lot of alone time and I preferred to like play by myself, or I used to play PlayStation, or I would actually be in bed sleeping. I slept a lot. And I realized now that I was trying to be in my caves environment. I was trying to dispel the other energy that I'd picked up at school and from home. And that really was my safe place as well, without going into too much of my childhood. So when I went into high school, I noticed that people were very difficult and I found it hard to make friends and fit in. And I realize now that being a projector, I see deeply into people and I make people feel uncomfortable quite a lot of the time if I'm not invited. And I can't really do anything about that. I'm a kind person. I will be nice to folk. I will always be civil. So I never went out my way to be nasty or anything. It was just literally my existence pissed people off or they didn't like me. I always say that I'm kind of like Marmite. You either like me or you really don't. I'm fine with that. Well, I am now, but at the time, I really struggled with that. And the friendships that I had, it wasn't true recognition a lot of the time. They just liked the attention that I gave because I will say that I'm a good friend. I am able to listen, to support, and I really seek reciprocal relationships as a 2-4. So that fourth line, that network, was really important to me. But I have been in the wrong network for quite a long time in certain areas of my life. So this is quite common for projectors to burn out in high school. You might be a high achiever, you might be gifted, you might resonate with being like autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, and you were kind of high flying in primary school. And then when you got to high school, it just went wah, because that's what happened to me. I really wanted to fit in, so I gave up my intelligence to dumb myself down essentially, and I lost those skills. I lost being able to study, being a critical thinker. I just followed the crowd, and again, it really negatively impacted me with my idea of success. So I had glandular fever in my third year of school, so I was like 14, 15. And this knocked me on my backside for months, and I had chronic fatigue for like a good year or two afterwards. And this really impacted me through the rest of high school and into my university years as well. So honestly, finding out that I was a projector in human design changed my life. It was so affirming and so validating. And I know a lot of folk don't like human design or they find it like a bit culty or whatever, and it can absolutely be like that. But I found it super helpful in understanding myself and why I reacted in certain ways and why people react like that towards me and what I need for my body. So I really wanted to be seen deeply by another projector. So I had a reading with Sam Zagar, which was really, really beneficial. I'm a direct light variable, so I'm currently sitting under full spectrum plant lights because I am literally like a plant. I need to photosynthesize. So that has been really helpful, and I've noticed a big difference in the last couple of days that I've been doing that. I'm also a caves environment, so you can see that my back is against the wall. I can see the door there. And when I go out to eat in restaurants and things, I always sit in a booth and I like to have my back against it. It just helps with that feeling of safety. And it's funny that I've been doing that for such a long time without even realizing that this is part of my design. Being a splenic authority is difficult, but the more embodied and the more connected to myself I've become, the easier it is to hear. And I can reflect on times where I had that, like, a very strong no when my gut literally dropped. And I could hear the no, like do not engage or don't go that way. And I'm very lucky to have been in difficult situations before and got out okay. And I do think that it's like the spleen, kicking in as well. So the spleen is your immune system, your lymphatic system, and if I showed you pictures of me as a teenager, you would see that my face was so puffy. I have a picture from the day of my graduation from my undergrad degree, and like you could hardly see my eyes because my face was just so puffy, my cheeks were so full. Um, it was wild. I just felt so sluggish. I would always hold on to weight, especially around my middle. And it wasn't until I was living in Australia where I was getting consistent heat and sunlight, direct light, that I really came into my healthiest physical form. And unfortunately, when I had to come home, that was tough coming back to the rain and the snow. But I noticed that my skin and my body, because it feels like I'd charged up a battery because I had been there for such a long time and had the sun for so long, that the effects went on for a while, which was actually quite helpful in terms of being fit and exercising, and my skin was really good as well. So I thrive in hot climates, especially arid. You'll find me in the Mediterranean, like swimming in the sea, salt water, sun. Like I always describe myself as a lizard on a rock. I need to be incubated for a period of time before I function. And that was so validating again to hear that I'm direct light. This is what I really need to function. I always have to have breakfast. If I don't have breakfast, I will perish. So again, it's like bringing all of this into your life experience and looking at your design as well. So let's talk about the burnout, because burnout is something that plagues projectors. We are in a generator world that will be changing into 2027. But if you think about what generators have built and brought, we've had like the Industrial Revolution, the rise of the internet. A lot of things have been created, and a projector's job is to guide that energy. So you might hear like we're not here to work. It's not that we're not here to do jobs, it's just that our way of working is different. So when I was teaching, I really noticed this. And again, I didn't know about my human design yet, but we work really potently. I can hammer out amazing work in like 3 or 4 hours, and then that's me done for the day. So when I worked in office jobs or when I worked as a teacher, I really struggled with the full long day of like 8 hours and also not being in my own space. So I loved that my pupils would come to see me and talk to me during the breaks, but I was burning out so bad because I wasn't in my own energy. I also am autistic and ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed at this point. And I felt like I was masking all the time. So I had this like persona on. I wasn't in my own energy. I had to do, it sounds a bit pathetic, but I had to do a full day's work, but it wasn't right for my body, my system. And in teaching, especially when you're a young teacher just coming in, there's a really high expectation that you have to sign up for everything. So you're running clubs, you're doing supervision on break, you're doing supervision on lunch, you're staying late after school. And I really started to break down at this point. I was really, really struggling with that. And I could sense the dynamic because when I was leaving at the bell, I would go home and do work. I'd go home and write my lesson plans, but I needed to be in my own energy. But that didn't look like that to other teachers, and there started to be like a bit of resentment, especially because I was a young teacher coming in, and that made things quite difficult, and they weren't seeing and recognizing me, and as a result of the burnout, I felt like my teaching was impacted. And it sucks because I loved teaching, and when before I went to that school, I felt like I was a really good teacher, and I was always learning and involved and doing different things, but it just something crumbled. I couldn't go on the way that I was going on. And at the same time, I was losing friends because I realized that they didn't recognize me when I really needed them. They weren't there. So they loved the attention and the support that I gave, but they weren't able to reciprocate. And eventually, when the pandemic happened, these friends fell away. Relationship I was in fell away. I moved out into my own space, and oh my God, it was amazing. It was honestly so good. Um, Being able to be in my own energy and just hang out by myself really cleared the pipes. And I did a lot of healing at this time and really taking care of myself. I had like a yoga practice every day. I would walk my dog around the park. Um, I would play the PlayStation. I think I played like The Witcher 3 to completion like twice when I lived in that flat. I loved gaming and just watching things in my bed, and I was very, very happy with that. And when I started to date again, um, I was noticing like certain interactions. And as a projector, you do need to be invited. So again, it was interesting to think back and reflect on the dynamics, and was I seen, or did they just want the energy? Like it's really curious. So with that, being in my own flat, in my own energy, and giving up teaching, I had decided to start my own business because I am unemployable in the way that I can't function in a corporate or educational environment, especially with other people telling me what to do or how to function, or you can't do this, you can't do that. With my reading with Sam, it turns out I'm a pure individual. So I've got just the individual circuitry, I'm a spleen and a root, and that's it. Um, and I'm here to mutate, and things around me will change and catalyze as well. And I always wondered why people would change after either working with me or being with me as a friend or in a relationship. And there was like a catalyst effect. And I realize now that I'm not supposed to be like, people aren't supposed to be in my life for a long time. And it's getting to accept that like it's a reason, a season, a lesson, or a blessing, and being able to like let people come and go. But I digress. Coming back to the business, starting my business, it has been really interesting watching the mechanics of that. And I thought I had it under control in terms of what I was doing, because I get trained in energy healing. So I'm a Holy Fire Reiki master teacher, and I'm trained in Seishim to level 1, um, somatic therapy, and I'm a human biologist. So I bring all of this together. But over the last couple of years, I've been seeing numerous clients. And when I moved into my own treatment room, 4 days a week, 3 or 4 clients a day. And last year, I just kind of hit a point where I was like, I'm struggling, and my mental health started to decline. And I realized that I wasn't getting enough direct light. I wasn't having enough alone time because my partner's a man gen. I'm constantly in his energy or client's energy. Really, really tough to dispel that excess energy that I was having. And things just went south. And I also wasn't being recognised appropriately in some professional conditions. So that again was like a bit of a shock, coming back to your strategy, your authority, your success signature, like wait for the invitation, all that stuff. I really had to look at that again and identify, okay, how does this work? What am I noticing? Because it's not just mental, it's very body based as well, especially a splenic authority. So noticing how I felt when I was interacting with certain people. Did I feel recognized? Does this feel good? Do I want to do this? And checking in with myself. So standards and boundaries for projectors need to be so high. And if you've had a difficult childhood, difficult schooling, or a relationship that wasn't good for you, we can really bring down these boundaries and standards to settle so that we get some form of recognition or for safety. No judgment here, because I absolutely did that. I gave it away for free. But now I don't do that. So I've literally just changed my business and the way that I function. So I used to give support quite a lot in the DMs. I no longer do that. I also don't let people trauma dump in my DMs. It's highly inappropriate. It's also not fair, because I'm sitting on social media, I'll get a message and I'm like trundling along, and then someone's like hit me with their worst day ever. And I'm like, whoa, like my nervous system isn't ready for that. And it also leaves people feeling distant or abandoned as well, because the more you try to get someone to hold you and witness your pain when someone's not capable of doing that, it leads to a lot of trouble for you. And I know from experience doing this as well, you just want to be held and for people to see your pain, but it's not appropriate. So I've really tightened that up. Also free advice, bar people kind of asking me or getting to know me a little bit. I won't allow that to go on further. So I've been setting a lot of boundaries around that, around DMs and communications and emails. I'm not rushing to answer emails anymore. You can only work with me by application, and the invitation needs to be correct. So I have turned clients away before. I've tightened this up. I also am an ethical practitioner. So if you don't need something, I'm not going to sell you or give it to you. If you're in a real state of distress, and I used to offer like astrology readings and tarot readings and stuff, and someone would come to me in a real distressed state, and I was like, a reading isn't actually supportive for what you need right now. Like you need to go to therapy or you need like family support, rather than like putting it into that. So I'm not afraid to turn people away, and that has in turn been really supportive for my business and also like building a community because it has to be based on trust as well. So I've tightened this up and I am now in the experiment of how this looks. So I'm a 2-4. I'm trying to hermit more, and I have noticed that when I am hermiting, that I'm being called out more in positive ways. So I was doing everything to be visible. I was shouting about it on stories. I was posting on my feed as much as I could, sending emails, trying to be so visible during launches, and just even when I wasn't launching, I would even be like posting when I was on holiday and stuff like that. That's how like ingrained that conditioning was, where I had to show up every single day because that's all you hear from like all these people telling you about how to market. The chance is they're probably generator types and they probably don't have a 2 in their profile that needs to hermit. So I've noticed that pulling that energy back, being a wee bit mysterious, letting people wonder what I'm up to, has been supportive. And also my fourth line, I've got a really lovely community and amazing clients and return clients who refer me to their friends, their family, colleagues, whatever. So I'm really focusing on my second and fourth line and how to leverage that in my business. And I'm also working with safety and visibility. So I do somatic work, for myself and for clients, and increasing my nervous system capacity to be seen and to be visible because projectors need to be visible. And Sam and I were talking about like eye contact, and autism and things like that. It was really interesting because I struggle to make eye contact quite a lot. And you might notice in this video I'm looking away, but it's because our eye contact is so potent and so piercing that it can be really intimidating for some folk, or very scary, to be seen in that way. Um, it's very much like the eye of Sauron is given that, like I can see into people, and a lot of people don't like that. And again, that's where the invitation comes in, and sitting back and not giving things until I'm asked, which is so hard because I'm a know-it-all. I'm like a walking encyclopedia, and I'm like, I know that, I know that. And that was me as a child. I used to have my hand up all the time in class. I would be given unsolicited advice. I'd be asking questions. Why is that happening? Why are we doing that? I've learned now to sit back and pull that energy back until someone asks me, and I don't have anything to prove anymore. And that has just been such a game changer. But again, that takes work to come into that place of confidence and security in yourself that you don't need to be seen as XYZ. And that took a lot of time for me to get there because I put my worth in productivity, and what I knew, my intelligence. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that that's totally healed. That's going to be something that I think a lot of us will work on continuously. And we don't ever really fully heal things. I don't think they'll come up again in different fonts that you just work through. I find that healing's like a bit of a spiral, and we just go round and up, and you do better than you did last time. So this is a burnt out projector ramble. I am working to get back to health and myself and my business. Um, I'll talk about bitterness again in some videos. I want to talk about astrology, um, somatic work, the nervous system. So if you're into any of that stuff, that's what you'll find here on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.